This conversation about building up your blueprint. It's time to take it cause time is wasted. Go grind and chase it, don't lose it. This generation need integration with information to move with. An inclination that is abiding in entertaining improvement.
Hey, what's going on, Blueprint Nation? Welcome to another dope episode of the Respect My Blueprint podcast. I'm your host, your main man, your Blueprint Mastermind. And this is the platform where we give you the blueprint on how to do shit around here, okay? And today I'm super excited with my guests. As you guys know, we always bring dope guests here to share their insights. We look under the hood of their blueprint so we can go ahead and share it with you guys. My guest today is a lovely young lady. Man, she's an entrepreneur, a marketer, traveler, innovator, best-selling author. Yeah, you could call her Superwoman if you want to, is that well, right? But she is also, we're talking about a woman who doesn't just build brands. Guess what? She scales empires. All right. And we're going to hear about it today because she's a founder, a fixer, and also a fierce operator. So I hope everyone is ready for what she's willing to share with us. She's known for turning startups into 7-figure machines and helping businesses shave 40,000 off of their operations. So I hope you guys are super excited. We're going to learn, SOPs, operations, streamlining your business, as all that's a requirement in 2025, guys. So man, I hope you're sitting on the edge of your seats for my guest today, Alexis Schomer. How are you doing today?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you so much for having me on. Excited to get into it.
All right. Awesome. I'm glad to have you as well, too. Super excited. Well, listen, I tried to do my best to roll out the red carpet for you. You see, I even called you Superwoman, right? So there's high expectations right out of the gate. So, but before we get into everything, if you could share a little bit with the audience, who are you? What's your background and kind of a little of your expertise as that sets a stage for our conversation today?
Sure. So I have a broad variety of experiences from marketing to operations and everything from running my own tech startup to running a food manufacturing warehouse to running an e-commerce brand and now helping small businesses scale their operations. So really kind of a broad experience, and I would say that the focus now is taking everything that I know from all of my past and helping founders, I would say maybe cut corners and not make the same mistakes that I made, because I can help streamline ops through administrative support and strategic scaling.
Oh, wow. Awesome. Now, I'm glad that you mentioned that because this is a topic that a lot of entrepreneurs need to be aware of. It doesn't matter whether you're a startup or even a well-established business, right? So if you could highlight the importance of needing to be able to have SOPs and streamlining your operations.
Sure. So any business to grow, you want to build a team that can repeat, the repeatable processes that you set. So an SOP is the document that will outline your processes. It's what you'll use to train new team members, and it will really help streamline that training process, especially if there's any type of turnaround, turnover, new employees coming and going. If you don't have an SOP or a similar type of document, it will require your personal time training every new person. So in and of itself, an SOP is documenting your processes. It's helping you streamline onboarding new hires, and it's also ensuring that your processes are followed correctly. So our entire team, from our bookkeeping side to our ops side to our admin side, all follow SOPs. And an SOP itself can look a little bit different in terms of, is it a document? Is it in an app? Is it managed in a project management system? But at the end of the day, what it means is it's a clear, defined process to follow with steps, instructions, resources, everything you'll need to get tasks done.
Awesome. Okay. Now, and I wholeheartedly agree with you there because, this is sort of like the constitution for the business in a way, right? It helps. So now with that being said, when you go into a company, right, I'm pretty sure you've dealt with businesses that probably have had SOPs, none that had none. Typically, when you go into a company and they don't have an SOP, what's the first thing that you do? Like, what's the first step for them?
So working with a new client, if they don't have an SOP, I will just have a 2-hour brainstorm session. Typically, we schedule a few of these on the calendar, up to 3. So we will just start with them explaining to me their process. So let's say, for example, they are an electrical company, and I'll say, okay, Where do you get your clients from? Show me how you book appointments. Show me the systems you're using. I'll record the entire call, record them screen sharing, showing me their systems. And from this, I can actually build them their SOP. A lot of founders, a lot of entrepreneurs have everything in their heads, and that's okay as long as you work with someone that can help you document that on paper, because the goal of every business is to have it run without you. So if you're the only one that knows how to do everything, all the processes are in your mind. If you were sick, if you wanted to go on vacation, the business would stop running without you. So with that in mind, I want to extract the information out of the business owner's mind. And I can do that just from a conversation, from a meeting, asking them questions to talk me through their process.
Wow, that's dope. Okay. So it's because you're right. Sometimes everything's just jumbled in and it's like, oh man, like, okay, hold on. How can I how can I systematize this and everything like that? So, okay. Now, which then leads me to automations, right? How much does automation plays into SOP, or do you even teach that within your training or working with customers?
Automations are kind of, I would say, it's a separate process. So trying to figure out how to automate a system is not necessarily part of how to document the process that you already have. You might have automations in your process already, and yes, that would be documented in the SOP. For example, maybe you set up a Zapier that every time a lead comes in on the website, it automatically adds it to your project management tool and assigns it to your VA to follow up. So that would be an automation, and we can definitely recommend more ways to automate businesses. But I would say that automating processes and documenting them are kind of two separate things. And yes, they can go hand in hand, because if you're documenting the process, you might think of ways to automate as you go. So yes, there's ways to automate processes, and then there's also documenting the process and making sure that it's clear what's happening.
Awesome. Now you mentioned acronym there that people may know. You said VA, which for those who are unaware in the business world, virtual assistant, right?
Mhm.
So what are your thoughts on having a virtual assistant or a remote team? Is that also a philosophy that you share or teach to your clients as well?
Absolutely. We've found great success with virtual assistants, and it's not easy by any means to find and hire and train a good VA, because there are a lot of, there's a lot of processes you have to go through to find the right person and to train them properly. But at the end of the day, if businesses are looking for affordable ways to scale, maybe they don't have the funding to hire an in-house full-time team member, and that's how we can kind of step in and fill the gaps and give them the same type of quality and service through a virtual assistant that they would have previously gotten hiring someone local for $60,000 a year, let's say. So yes, I am definitely on board with virtual assistants. I believe that business owners should not be doing admin work themselves. And in fact, if they still are, it's probably inhibiting their growth. Every admin piece of the business should be documented and handed off to a virtual assistant.
Did you say every admin task should be like, so there's no, a founder should not be doing anything, bookkeeping, calendar, email, there's a plethora of things. So a founder shouldn't be doing any of these things. That's what you're saying.
That's what I believe, and I
Okay.
guess you can say to an extent. So let's just take them one by one. Email management, yes, founders will be responding to emails, but they should never be the first person to look at their email. Their admin should go through first, clear out the clutter, and only leave the important emails that they need responses to. Admins can also draft responses for them, and they'll just review and send. And there's some that admins can respond to on their behalf that maybe don't require the founder's brain. Founders should spend their time on high value tasks, revenue generating activities, managing their own calendar, in inputting expenses in QuickBooks. 100% should be handed off to a VA.
Okay. And that more or less, you should be working on the business instead of in the business, right? But
Exactly.
now here's the biggest obstacle that I feel a lot of startups struggle with and new entrepreneurs right out of the gate, right? Because normally they're super excited about their business. They feel like they have the most grandiose idea and they want to be able to handle everything. They have that I can't trust no one syndrome, right? So SOPs and having VAs all goes in realm which you could sum it up as delegating.
Mhm.
Okay. How much do you believe, how do you work with a founder that struggles to delegate?
I was in the same boat, to be honest. It took me many years to get over that obstacle of being comfortable delegating. So I felt the same way. I felt like I could do it better, faster than anyone else. And I had trouble trusting, a virtual assistant. So I've been there for the first, I would say, 8 years of my entrepreneurship career. I had trouble delegating. So there is definitely that obstacle. And I think coming from that experience, I can help ease that worry. And also having someone in the middle like myself when working with a VA that maybe a business owner can trust and put the trust in me, and I will bridge that gap between completely delegating to someone they've never met versus delegating to someone who they know and can trust to get things done. So there is that obstacle, and I do work through it with founders. But having gone through it myself, I kind of can relate to them and ease their worry on delegation. Now, that being said, delegation is necessary to grow. And although founders want to do everything themselves, one kind of like mindset that I can share is that if someone can do it 80% as good as you, delegate it. So you can't control everything, and nobody will do it exactly the way that you do it. But if someone is 80% as good, they can easily be trained up to fill that gap and get to like 95%. So that's something, to keep in mind if you're having, trouble figuring out what can I delegate, like maybe calendar. I want to be in control of my calendar. Well, someone can easily learn your style and then control the calendar the same way that you would.
Very, very good point. You know what? And I like how you really mentioned that 80%. So you shouldn't be seeking perfection. You could just see just good enough, or not good enough, but above good enough to the point where you say you could train that missing gap right there.
Mhm.
Okay. So so here's another obstacle where I think early entrepreneurs struggle with as well. Your job is to go in is twofold. And correct me if I'm wrong. Number one, creating SOPs, so systematizing the operations, but also putting the company in position to scale, right? Because obviously that is what the systematizing inevitably is going to do.
Mhm.
So you have certain founders may give you pushback on that because maybe they want to grow, but they don't want to lose what we call like the soul of the company. They don't
Mhm.
want to break the culture or the vibe that they have, right? So how do you go ahead and work with owners or early tech or early entrepreneurs who may have this obstacle?
I think all companies face that challenge of losing culture as you grow, which is why I think
Right.
it's really important to hire the right people. So if
Right.
your culture is very important to you, there are certain company values that should be built into the hiring process, even with working with a virtual assistant. And that would be communicated, and I would learn that information from the initial interviews and initial onboarding with the founders. We actually also really value the culture at our company in the people that we hire, whether they are virtual assistants or managers or account managers or anything like that. So we build it into our process. Our values are very important to us, and so is attention to detail. So we include things, little tiny requirements that if they're missed, then we know that the person's not the right person for us, because we want detail oriented people that value the same things that we value. That can be built into hiring processes. And, I think as every company scales, it's almost impossible to keep the same culture as you would when it's a small, like one-man shop or three-person
Right.
shop, just part of growth. But to mitigate that and to try to hold on to culture as long as you can, find the people that really like fit the vibe of your team.
Awesome. Now, when you are onboarding, and I want to get into a human resource aspect here for a
Mhm.
second, switch gears really quick. When you're on, or when you're working with a VA or you're onboarding one, what's the typical, I would say, probationary period, or what's the typical time where you can make that determination that, okay, this person is a good fit or not
Mhm.
so much a good fit?
Yeah, I'd love to share. We have a very thorough recruitment process before the onboarding period. So for
Okay.
any admin job we're hiring for, we may source around 800 people that fit the skill sets, the experience we're looking for. We want alignment on past job experiences. We want to see like long tenure at jobs. Like there's a lot of things we look for in the recruitment process. And some of these people might already have jobs, so we're trying to poach them. Some might be looking for jobs. So we will hand recruit around 800 because we found that recruiting them ourselves versus posting job postings and having inbound applicants, the quality of candidate is better when we can handpick them. So we
Makes
handpick
sense.
them, they go through our process. Each stage of our process is meant to weed people out. So we have assessments that are assessing for critical thinking, math skills, computer literacy, English. So every stage of the process weeds people out. We only select the best of the best, and then they have to get through multiple interview processes, and then they have to get through a paid trial week. So this trial week, it's about 20 hours of paid work where we really test working with them. And this is before they even onboard or the client meets them. This
Oh,
really
wow.
does show us a lot about that person, how they show up, how they think, how can they handle tasks that are not in their job description that we throw their way. We like to test all these things in a person and really push them and stress test them. Then once we've pick our final candidate, the needle in the haystack, as I like to say, because there is a lot to sift through to find the right person. Then we have a 90-day onboarding program. And I will build this out based on the company we're hiring for, the job description, the tasks they need to do, and what success looks like to the business owner so that everyone's aligned, myself, the VA, and the business owner. At the end of the 90-day period, if these things are done, like everyone will be happy. So this is our onboarding probationary period, 3 months. And at the end of this period, typically our VAs are rocking and rolling in the jobs. They are working directly with the business owners and they're meeting all of their success metrics.
Awesome. Also, okay, I like that. So you have a very extensive vetting process, prior to even onboarding them with the client, which is dope because, and you're right, instead of just poaching and posting everything, to put them through this is very beneficial, and obviously it lowers the attrition and the turnaround rate, I'm assuming as well, right?
Absolutely. Yes. If we find that the more effort we put in the beginning, the better outcomes we'll have later. We would probably have a really high turnover, like a lot of other VA agencies where people come and go, they don't show up for work, they might have an emergency. Those are things that we vet for and we test them first to make sure that they show up and everyone's consistent.
Got it. Now, what is, in your opinion and your experience, what part of the world or region typically has the best VAs?
Yeah, we've tested from all around the world. My favorite two regions are the Philippines and Latin America.
Okay.
Specifically, we've gotten a lot of good talent in Mexico and in the Philippines. So Filipino culture, I would say, does align well with American culture in terms of they're used to working, PST or EST hours. They value their jobs and their responsibilities, and they're very loyal. So I appreciate those things about the Filipino culture. And then I would say like Mexican culture also aligns well because we're on the same time zone. And it really depends on the job and the skill set. So if you're looking for someone to be more client facing, maybe an account manager, maybe in sales, I think Latin culture aligns better. And then I would say if you're looking for like pure admin work, research based, like data entry, calendar management, typical VA or EA style, we found a lot of good talent in Philippines for that.
Here's now switch gears a little bit here. Do you work with each individual department, or you sort of just create one big constitution for the entire company?
So our SOP service is not a standalone SOP development service. It's part of our admin package. So we are creating the SOP that's relevant to the admin work. So typically this could involve some maybe light bookkeeping, maybe a little bit of onboarding, email management, invoicing, things like that. So the SOP that we're specifically working on is related to what the VA will be doing. So it's basically like the VA's SOP.
Rock the whole company around like, hey, you guys are doing this, you're doing that type of thing. Okay. But okay, that's understood. Right.
Okay.
What are the cons of working with the VA? Because, and of course, by the way, I'm saying this with this in mind, and I want to share with the audience whatever she's about to share with you guys, and I'm hoping you could back me up on this. Pros always going to outweigh the cons, right? Because having a VA is absolutely phenomenal, but I just for transparency, there are some things that you need to be aware of, and I'm hoping you could just share with the audience.
Yes, I can share from my experience from working with many business owners that have tried working with VA companies that didn't work out as well. So some of the cons I would say are reliability. When you're working with people from other parts of the world, there might be other things that affect their ability to show up, like a power outage, like a typhoon, natural
Oh,
disasters. So you're going to be facing things like that, where if they don't show up for work because they didn't have electricity, that's a very common occurrence. And what we've tried to do, understanding these challenges in other parts of the world, is put systems in place to prevent and mitigate these risks. So on that
mhm.
note, we require all of our team members to have backup generators for power and internet so that if there is a power outage, they can still work undisrupted because they have the tools. And we will even offer to pay for these products for them for their home. So yes, that's
Hey,
one of the cons, is kind of like electricity and power outages in certain parts of the world, but there are ways around that. The other I would say is, let's see, cons of hiring a virtual assistant. I would say that the onboarding period and the patience it takes to train a virtual assistant can be a
right.
lot for a business owner to manage. So if
A learning
you
curve.
are not ready for that, or if you don't have a partner that's going to handle the training for you, that can alone be a huge deterrent. And it actually was for me when I first started working with virtual assistants. Before I understood the work that it went into to train somebody up, I just thought that it wasn't working out because the quality of the work wasn't there. But I later learned that it has to be trained. You have to, it takes time for someone to learn your processes, especially at the virtual assistant level where they are not next to you and they can't see what you're doing. And so that's a con that can also be, it's preventable, or it takes effort and time. And then another one I would say is not having any type of like US management. So some of these VA companies that are overseas, they staff you with a VA and then you're kind of on your own working directly with them. Having a US manager that really understands US culture, US business can also help mitigate some of those cons in terms of teaching them, the ways that we do business, some of the phrases that we use and phrases we don't use in American culture.
Understood. Okay. And you're so right. You actually hit it spot on because the 3 points you just made, if you would have asked me if you were to reverse and ask me that question, I would have said, if not all three, but majority out of those three, especially the
Mhm.
learning curve, right? Because of course you're
Mhm.
talking about different cultures and everything like that, but it is magic once the light bulb goes off in their head and once they get it, because then it's just like boom, 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 and you're like ordeal, right? So
Exactly.
okay. So here's another question. How do you know, of course, how do you know when is the perfect time to bring in a VA? Because, of course, most businesses, when they start, they're a one-man operation, maybe have one or two people working with them. Do you wait to, you don't want to wait to the point where you're super overwhelmed and you're super disorganized, but you
Mhm.
also don't want to do it prematurely where it's affecting your bottom line and your revenue and it's being counterproductive. So, when is usually the good timing to make that decision to bring one in?
Yeah, that obviously looks different for every business, but I would say in the beginning, you need to do it yourself. You need to understand your business really well yourself, have your processes in place. And then once you get to the point that you can afford that admin support, I would say is the right time. That will look different for everyone. Typically, businesses we work with are making at least around the 500,000 mark and up. And at that
Oh,
point, you can definitely hire an admin to help take that work off your plate. We do see people investing before that, upwards of 150,000, but you have to make sure, like you said, that it's not going to put you in the negative and that the idea is that this investment will help you scale and grow. So if the VA can take off this admin work on your plate, you can focus on more revenue generating activities that should in and of itself like generate the ROI for you.
awesome, awesome. And how many VAs do you recommend a company? Let's well, not a small business, right?
Mhm.
And I know that's probably hard to quantify because again, there's many different businesses, many different headcounts, and everything like that. But we're just talking a small business here. How
Yeah.
many VAs do you typically recommend a business should have?
So you can think of a VA like any other type of job or role. If you're going to create a new job description for it, it should probably be a different person. So a VA is not, they can't do everything for you in one. They specialize, they have experiences. So general admin work, we're placing one full-time person, and that person should be able to do like almost all of the admin stuff. But once you get into needing different types of specialties, like, okay, now I want someone that does my sales or that's going to help me with social media or marketing. That's when you want to hire a second VA that has that specialized experience. Or
Oh,
if the admin workload is really beyond that of 40 hours a week and you do need two admins to do the same type of work, it depends on the workload. But for most small businesses, I would say one VA is enough to help handle all of the admin work.
okay. Now typically I'm pretty sure you have different VAs for part-time and full-time. Is there's how long is the usual timeline from a VA? Because of course there's a fear of burnout as well too, right? So is there usually 6 months a year that from your experience that's when you should maybe looking for another replacement or another VA or something like that? Is there's a from your experience a standard rule or something?
Interesting question, and I think that comes from working with agencies where the VAs have high turnover.
Mm.
Our VAs have been with us for years, so we don't really see that problem. It depends on the situation that the VA is in. I don't have a single client that we had to replace the VA for because the VA quit and we had turnover. We make sure to set everything up like the right way from the beginning. And the HR, the onboarding is very important. And the VAs do need to feel like they are growing and they do have, a good work-life balance. So we're very careful with making sure that they feel that way. We have regular check-ins. We like to treat our VAs like any employee at a large company. So they have one-on-ones with their manager every week. They have performance reviews. We have benefits that we offer, and that's how we can retain our talent and avoid the high turnover that a lot of other VA agencies experience.
Awesome, awesome. Which I guess I was gonna ask this question, but you've answered most of it because I was gonna say, how do you motivate them? How do you incentivize them?
Mhm.
But you mentioned that you keep the constant training and everything like that. And is there's anything that the owner should be doing or the client should be doing to further amplify, to incentivize the VA as well?
Yeah, so we work with the owners. We handle a lot of the benefits that we offer, but we work often with the business owners and we like to align the benefits to what they offer their other employees so the VA feels like part of the team. So, everyone's human and everybody wants that connection. They want to feel like they're valued, they want to feel like part of the team. So often what I found that helps them feel like that is positive reinforcement from the business owner, nice, Christmas bonuses at the end of the year, performance-based bonuses throughout the year, typical things that like any person would want. It's the same for a
Right,
VA. Like they are also a human. So
right.
we offer bonuses year end and then we extend it to the business owner if there's anything they'd like to add, completely optional. Most do. And some of our business owners also offer other types of performance incentives that if they want to motivate a VA to hit a certain goal, they'll offer a usually monetarily based performance incentive.
Right. Oh,
I do have one more thing to add there. Another
sure.
part of
Go ahead.
the whole culture that we are talking about earlier, we've also found that to build our internal culture at YSO, which is my company, Your Startup Operations, we offer things that are outside the scope of like the VA's daily tasks with the client. We have professional developments, we have social nights that we pay them to come to. They can win money and they also connect with the other VAs on the team. So we've heard feedback that our team really loves that. They love being part of the YSO culture, and that has also incentivized people to stay with us long term.
Oh wow, that is super super dope. Yeah, because you're allowing them, to put their hair down, no pun intended, I have none, right? You're allowing them to put their hair down a little bit and just vibe with the rest of their colleagues and associates and everything.
Hmm.
And more importantly, like you say, that builds culture,
Hmm.
right? And so super super dope. All right.
Yeah.
Now, I want to ask you here as, we ready to wrap up soon is what kind of ROI have you seen from companies utilizing virtual assistants? If there's any, testimonials or an example that you can give from a client that you work with that they've had a virtual assistant and they've just been able to.
Yeah, so I'd have to look up some of the exact numbers, but one that you mentioned earlier on the call was saving $40,000 a year from one VA hire. So a VA hire is significantly more affordable than hiring a local full-time person. So that's an easy comparison to make in terms of money savings. And in terms of ROI, we do have some data points around that. I think one of our clients in the entertainment space had an X ROI from hiring a virtual assistant because he was able to increase his revenue significantly from having the time to get on more sales calls because he offloaded a lot of the admin work to his VA.
Absolutely. That's 8x. Woo. I mean, that right there. And you said $40,000. I mean, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know how many of you are out there, especially I know many of our viewers here are newly minted entrepreneurs, but I don't know about an extra $40,000 you could put in your pocket, right? It's like, come on now. I don't know if you need much convincing. This asks you one final question here. If there's any piece of advice that you would like to share with the audience in order for them to build their blueprint, because we've covered a lot today in regards to rolling out of the gate some of the SOPs that you would need, how to be able to hire a VA and systematize their operations. If there's one piece of advice you could share with the audience, what would that be?
I would say if you can automate a process and it's repeatable, it's time to get it off your plate. So if you don't know where to start, maybe you're not sure what to delegate, hop on a call with me. I'm happy to talk through and explain and brainstorm with you. But if you're doing a repeatable task, it's for sure time to delegate that out. And you're actually preventing yourself from growing by doing those repetitive tasks yourself.
Awesome. Listen, you guys should be working on your business, not in your business. I'm pretty sure if you've heard that phrase or some variation of it before, but it's so true. In order to scale, in order to get to the next level, ladies and gentlemen, you have to be able to go ahead and delegate, as that's the cheat code nowadays, right? And of course, Alexis and her team and her company, Your Startup Operations, is definitely, from what we've heard today, she's the right fit for you.
Absolutely. So a lot of our work is tailored to each business, very white glove and very customized. So I would say hop on a call with me. You can book me at yourstartupoperations.com. And if you need to reach me, I can share also my email or my social media in the description of this podcast. But yeah, I would say I'm happy to offer free 30-minute consultations for anyone that's interested in learning about delegation, outsourcing, or virtual assistants.
Absolutely. And of course, we do have your LinkedIn as well as your Instagram, which is included into the description of the show notes of this podcast here, ladies and gentlemen. Definitely, especially all of my startups out there. Of course, there's benchmarks you want to make sure. You want to make sure that your revenue is in place to be able to have the ample amount of tasks, but the financial bandwidth to be able to go ahead and bring on a VA. But having SOPs, having a VA is definitely a difference maker. And we have the right girl to be able to go ahead and make that happen for you guys. Reach out to her, book a call. She'll sit down with you. She'll let you know how she could go ahead and make it happen for you guys. Ben, I'm super excited to have you on today, Alexis. You're superwoman. You're superwoman. All right. I called you at the beginning and I'm going to let you know at the end, you're superwoman. And you're also giving a lot of business owners superpower by giving them their time back in their business. And all of you guys out there, you have superpowers as well, too. Because again, you're here checking out the Respect My Blueprint show, where we give you the blueprint on how to do shit around here. And as always, guys, we are going to catch you on the flip side. Take care. Peace.
Blueprint. This conversation about building up your blueprint. It's time to take it, cause time is wasted. Go grind and chase it, don't lose it. This generation need integration with information to move with. An inclination that is abiding in entertaining improvement. Yep, Wesley Paul with Blueprint. This guests are exclusive. Get on and tune in and then learn some new tips about credit, finance, investment. A nice chance to get rich and buy land. Flip it, quick 9 bands. Learn all the skills from Wesley did it. Learn how to build successful business. Run up a mill and get the digits. Run up a mill. Look, safe place where guests are speaking. Based off financial freedom. All facts, no cap, believe it. Podcast, you have to see it.